Hi, I'm KS Garner, and you're listening to the Solo Nerdbird podcast. Today, I'll be speaking with the author of the upcoming comic book series, The Path of the Pale Rider, launching on Kickstarter April 15th, Laurie Calcaterra. Welcome, Laurie.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you for joining us. But outside my introduction, who is Laurie Calcaterra, and what are you about?
Well, I am a martial artist and an indie comic book writer. And I say that for a reason because it's like my martial art path is actually what led me to writing, which was really bizarre. But yes, I'm an indie writer for comic books at this point. And my comic book is, like you said, coming to Kickstarter April 15th. It's a Western apocalypse. So that's kind of where I live. I enjoy sci-fi and lots of comic books. I read Image Comics, DC Comics, Dark Horse Comics. So it's kind of like I enjoy that. I play Fallout. I play video games, and that's just kind of what has influenced all this. Stuff that I enjoy is what I put into my comic. So that's who I am.
Well, I don't know if you listened to the episode I did with Patrick Lugo. He did like photography for a martial artist magazine for a long time,
Cool.
and then that's how he moved into his comics because it's something he's always done for a long time, and then he brought that influence from the martial artist and the photography and his love for illustration as well, and put it all into his series as well. So your interest in martial artists now moving into comics is not that strange, at least from my perspective.
Good. Some people like it's hard to see the connection, but it's like I went from martial arts to choreographing fight scenes for a production company in Detroit called Coattail Collective. And then they liked my stuff so much that they actually brought me in as part of the team. And then I started writing content for them. And it was mostly like action and you know what I mean? It's like heavy martial arts. But I really got a good taste for writing, which is what led me to write this. And when I first wrote it, I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I mean, I'm from production, I'm thinking live action, but um, I let people start to read it. And the feedback I was getting is it's a comic book. And it makes sense. It makes sense. Like, we love comics. I don't know why I didn't think of that. My husband is the one that was like, this is a comic. I was like, you're right. So, but in order to realize that, that's why we have to go to Kickstarter. So,
Yeah, it's cool how our interest leads us to the life path that we're on now. Because no one ever thought
right,
of that in the beginning, but then now it's like, oh, why wouldn't I be into something like this? This is really cool.
right. Yeah, exactly. It's just funny how life takes us different places. And it's like, who would have thought, what you were doing 10 years ago would lead you to where you are now? So it's
Exactly.
cool.
But what is the path of the Pale Rider about?
So it's like I said, it's a Western apocalypse.
Hmm.
So we follow this cowboy on his horse. Our first episode, we find him in the desert. You see dilapidated infrastructure, so things falling down. And you don't really know exactly what he's doing, but he's searching for something. So in this world, nothing can die. So, I mean, let's back up. So the body can die, but the spirit remains. So you're stuck. You're stuck in this decaying, decrepit body forever. Like there's no escape. And so we have zombies, but they're treated a little differently. So as your body dies, your brain starts to decay. So we have this population of unpredictable people. So they get forgetful, they can get violent, they could get just indifferent. Like it doesn't matter if you're alive or if you're undead anymore because it's the same at first. And then as the population grows and there's more and more unrest, things start to fall apart. So Jude is 10 years into the apocalypse and he's been non-complacent. So at 10 years into this crisis, most people have kind of made peace with it and they're just trying to do whatever they can to survive. Jude is not happy and he wants to know what started it and see if he can put it back to the way things were. So since he's pre-apocalypse, you know what I mean? So he's still latched on to that time and something sets him on this path to figure out the whys. So he has this journal full of conspiracy theories that he goes through and he's interviewing people and he's looking for answers, and it could be, you know, government, it could be aliens, rapture, chemical exposure, who knows what caused this. So he's just been traveling looking for answers. But it's so dangerous because it's not just people that are undead, it's animals, insects, and everything, plants, everything. Nothing dies.
Uh-huh.
So it's just,
So is there, I guess, do you explain, or I guess some point in the story, is there an explanation between, I guess, like things like dementia and Alzheimer's? Because, you know, people like that, they kind of like, they can still move, like they're not, I wouldn't say they're dying. It's kind of like they are deteriorating in a way. So, but they're not the same as them. So maybe I don't want you to reveal any spoilers or anything like this, but it's like, I guess, is there an explanation of,
yes.
or of a difference between the two?
Yeah, so that's kind of actually what I modeled, how they progress through their decay stages is after people that have those degenerative brain diseases. And it hits everybody, all the undead, it hits them differently. So if they had a brain, you know, a head injury is what took them out, then they might go a little faster, you know what I mean? Or if it's something, you know, like they had an infection and it didn't affect their brain, so it might take them longer to decay. So, I mean, yes, I go into a lot more detail. I address all the questions. Like I've really spent a lot of time world building and thinking through how this process works. But yes, you are completely 100% right. That's kind of how I think of them, is there's still people, you still, you know, they're not cannibalistic after they die. They don't flip a switch and become a monster. It's like you could die over the weekend and then have to go to work on Monday. And that sucks too, you know? There's no escape. And to be stuck and to lose your senses, and you know what I mean? Just to be stuck in that is kind of a horrific situation as well. So, but we, you know, I take you through the fall of society, and we get to see all of that, you know, from Jude's point of view because he went through it. So you'll get to experience that.
Well, could you elaborate just a little bit more on the creative process for the Path of the Pale Rider as a whole? So you have this idea in your head.
Yeah.
How were you able, I guess, in a way, to flush it out to make it into a complete work as it is now, and now promoting it for the Kickstarter? So I guess from like, maybe not from start to finish, maybe some stuff in the middle. Like, how were you able to process it all?
Yeah. So I had just the idea, right? And I started with my creative process is flashcards. I don't know, it's kind of how I do it, but I'll think of like the beginning, what the problem is, and I'll think of like where I want my character to end up. And then I'll have to think of all the things I need to develop in the meantime, or like I might think of, okay, and this is not a spoiler, he comes across a undead bear in episode 1. Okay. So if you go to the Kickstarter, my Kickstarter preview pages, there's 8 pages where he goes on this cliff and he meets this undead bear. So I had this idea, like undead bear is an apex predator. It can run, it can swim, it can climb. There's really, and if you can't kill it, how do you get away from it if it's intent on killing you? So that's the dilemma that, you know, episode 1 that Jude comes across. There's all sorts of other stuff that happens to him. So like I'll put a flashcard in there, and so I can rearrange those as I need to as I'm developing the story. And a lot of times I'll go back and I'll add things. So I'll like, I've written 13 episodes for like the first arc. So it took me, I think, 2 years working on it, where I like, you know what they say, you write it the first time and then you go back and you try to make it seem like you did it on purpose.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just a labor of love. You go and you read it and you let people experience it, and then you maybe go back and you change some things. But for me, like I'll use the 3x5 cards and then I'll type it up, and things will change as I'm typing it. And then again, I'm working with a fabulous artist. His name is Marco DeFilo. And when you see his art, it's fabulous. He's so talented. But even as like we go through the panels and we talk about which one is going to have the dialect, I might change the dialect a little bit because of either the expression that he has on Jude's face or the amount of space that I have. I might need to condense some of the dialogue that I have, but it all needs to fit in there because it's a visual comic, right? So there's no like 2 minutes of time for this person to deliver a line like it would be in the movie. It would just be one panel and I got to squeeze it all in there. So again, it's always evolving depending on what stage we're at. So that's kind of like our process. And then Marco's fabulous. Like a lot of times we'll sit down. The first thing that we do is we read the script together. And then we talk about like, what's the really important things that need to be seen? And so he can make sure that those are incorporated. Like for instance, Jude's horse, his name is Prince, and she has a star on her forehead. And it's in reference to Diana Prince, who is Wonder Woman, right? So we reference other things. We have little Easter eggs for readers who are familiar with other comics as well. We just throw those in there. So stuff like that. So he has to make sure he has a star on the horse. But I mean, like I give him lots of artistic leeway, and it's awesome, let me tell you, because the way that he sees the world is how I see it in my head. So to have someone read the script and to be able to interpret, how I see the world onto a page. And I'm an artist as well, but oh my gosh, I cannot draw to save my life in comic sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's its own art to be able to convey emotion and get all the information onto one page. Like, how do you panel? What perspective are you using? How do you show action? It's just such an art form that I was like, I'm even going to try and tackle this myself, right? So Marco is fabulous, and he is able to really breathe life into the comic. So a lot of times he'll draw, like he'll sketch 3 and 4 different ideas for a page, like different panels, maybe different perspectives. And then we'll look at them and I'll just kind of give them feedback of which one I like or I seem is exciting. And then he'll do like, after he takes his notes, he'll do like a final sketch of the page in pencil, and then he'll go back and ink. So I'm involved in all of that, but it's just mainly minor things. And I'm just making sure I'm catching script points like, hey, Jude needs to have this on him at this point, or we need to make sure that we continue to have that in the scene. Or wouldn't it be interesting if there was extra crows because of the dead bears at the end of the road, stuff like that. But he's really the one that breathes life into it, which is so cool to see.
So how was your experience finding Marco? Like, well, let me back up a second. How was it searching for collaborators first? And then how did you settle on Marco? Like, how did you know that he was the one that was right for the job?
Marco's actually the third artist that was collaborating. I first found David Rodriguez, and then I found Jose Martinez, which were both involved at the same time, where David was penciling and then Jose was inking and doing text and color at that time. But it's just so hard during the pandemic. I mean, we lost David because of timing. It's just so much going on in his life. It was just, he couldn't commit the amount of time that he wanted to the project. And then unfortunately, Jose, the same thing. Like I never brought on Jose to do the whole thing. He was brought on to be support. But then when it's like Jose, we tried to do the whole project with Jose, but again, he never came on to do the whole thing. So it just kind of, it's time. Time is such a hard thing, and it's so valuable to artists. That's what you're paying for, is their time. So we actually started this back in 2020. And that's where I kind of started building a social media following and exploring other things, which I'll talk about. And it just kind of came all to a halt. And it's just like I had to take time to slow down and think about what I wanted to do, short term, long term, all of that. And I found Marco on social media. There's a wonderful Facebook group called Connecting Artists, Comic Book Artists and Writers. And I was like, this is exactly what I need, right? I need an artist, and that's what everybody is there for. So it makes sense. to search for an artist there. And I kind of, I put my project out there and people had applied for it. And it wasn't a good fit for anybody that had applied. So I just sat and I waited. And it's like, sometimes you just have to be quiet,
Mm-hmm.
and really wait and be picky. And when Marco is part of that group and he had posted something, and I was like, this is the guy. So him and I had a conversation. His rates matched what I was looking to pay. His art is beautiful. His time frame worked. So it just kind of fell into place that he and I decided to work together. So went from there. So we started, I think, in end of January. And here we are in March. The Kickstarter's ready to go. So I'm super happy with him. He's so professional. He meets all of his deadlines. So communicates everything, and so we're having a good time. He's excited. I'm excited. We're looking forward to drawing the rest of this comic and getting it out to people so they can really enjoy the story,
Yeah. So how difficult, or even if it was difficult, was the world building for you? How did you manage to create a world that is totally your own and integrate your influences into it, but maintain that the path of the Pale Rider is in your world and not in someone else's?
Those stories to me are the best. So any world that has like really thought out, I don't know how I want to say it. There's a culture to it. Like Dune was a big influence to me as a writer. You have to read that book, I don't know, 4 or 5 times to really get what's going on. There's espionage, there's politics, there's history between the houses. And it's like, when you finally like get all the spoilers, and then you have to go back and read it again because these characters interact with each other and they have no idea they're related. Like, it's like, oh my God, So that's the kind of stuff that I eat up. So for me to write, and I was like, I really wanted to think through, like, what are all the loopholes that could happen, or what's going on this side of the world, not even by Jude, you know what I mean? That kind of could influence things that are happening around him or somewhere else, or not at all. But it's just, I love that stuff. So I have a good time thinking of everything that's going on in this place. I don't know if you saw the Kickstarter preview, but so we have the comic. We have so much other stuff that's happening in this world that I decided we could explore it using short films and riddles. So I have the comic, which is, of course, the main story. We follow Jude. But I have these short films. There's going to be a short film released with every single episode on Kickstarter that explores kind of the stuff that's going on that's outside of Jude's purview. So like this episode is a commercial for undead retirement community. So if you want to go live in a community just with undead, you don't want to be around the living while you go through your decay stages. They have communities for that. So there's a commercial. We created a commercial where it's like, if you're watching TV and you saw this, come on, you'd be like, oh, this is nice. But it's interspliced with like riots and unrest and things that are actually happening. So it's a good juxtaposition of like, come on down to Pine Fox and reserve your spot. We're waiting for you. And like, like going on in the background. So it's just something fun to see. And what I really like about these is that I'm going to make them interactive. So readers, like for next episode, I'm going to send out like a theme, be like, okay, we're going to explore conspiracy theories. So people can send me like 30-second clips of themselves, acting out like either talking about a conspiracy theory, or like if you were being interviewed on the news, something like that. Like we see them all the time. Like people are like, don't you know what coronavirus actually means? Stuff like that. Like some of these people are kind of out there, right? So everybody can send me clips, and I'm going to compose a video for a short film that can have, our readers in it, where we can enjoy like something outside of, Jude's purview. So there's that. And then we have go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
It sounds like a lot. Does it ever become overwhelming with all the ideas that you have in your head that's outside of the comic itself?
No, because like I said, we had like a 2-year downtime between when we started to develop the comic
Uh-huh.
and to where we were ready for the Kickstarter and to actually start, publishing. So we had the short film has been done since October of 2020. And I
Okay.
like the idea of continuing to do these, and like I have a whole slew of ideas. So I've just been like, that downtime was really beneficial because I was able to do a lot of planning, and I have a lot of content that I'm going to be putting out either, TikTok and YouTube, and it's just lined up. It's ready to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not overwhelmed at all. I'm ready to share at this point all the good ideas that are backed up waiting to go.
Well, what advice would you offer to other creators you wish someone would have told you when you first started?
um, be picky, be picky. So when you're ready to commit, find an artist that is also ready to commit.
Mm-hmm.
And if that means, you have to pay them out of your pocket to show them you're serious, that's what happens. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But just be picky. Don't just jump on the first opportunity because someone is excited with you, because it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen. Also, if you're going to go the Kickstarter route, start promoting your project right away. Right away. Um, because what's going to happen is it takes time to build up a following. It takes time for people in your audience to be able to find you. You know what I mean? Because I have a Facebook group and I got lots of people in it, but you always start out with your friends and family. And I love, like, my Aunt Caroline, who's in the group, but she's not a fan of zombies, she's a fan of me.
Yeah.
So whether or not she's going to fund my project, I don't know. And I love her anyway. But that doesn't mean that the people that are in your friends and family understand your vision and will back you. A lot of them will. But if you really want to be successful, you got to get outside of your comfort zone and find your audience, right? So I want
Mm-hmm.
people that enjoy movies and comic books and video games and all that nerd stuff. That's where I live, and that's who I'm catering to with my story. So they need to be able to find me. It's a great product and it's a great story, and we got lots of things going on, but they don't know I exist. They can't support me.
Yeah.
So get out there and start talking about it. And it's kind of a grind, but do it. If you're passionate, people will follow you. So that's my advice to future people.
Well, I have another question about like budgeting. So, were you
Mm.
familiar with how to, I guess, present yourself and your work to those people in the Facebook group for comic writers looking for artists? Like, did you know how to ask for like, hey, this is what I have. I need my artist to be this, that, and the third, and this is my budget. Like, how did you know how to present yourself to them for offers to come in? Well, not offers, but for artists to apply, basically.
Well, you have to tell them what you're expecting in a page rate. So how I have created my plan is that I'm paying out of pocket for my Kickstarter pages, like for the preview. And then the rest of the issue has to be funded with Kickstarter. Okay. So that's what I was communicating. I have to be upfront with my artists, like, what is your page rate? I have to make sure I'm comfortable. If I say I have 8 pages I want done for Kickstarter, um, they have to be able to tell me a page rate, and then I have to be able to afford that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if it's astronomical, it doesn't work. So you have to be honest with yourself. How much am I willing to pay out of pocket to get this running? And then after that, it's like, are they comfortable, um, understanding that the rest of it has to come from Kickstarter and not out of my pocket? So as long as there's an understanding, I recommend having a contract. We have a contract. Our contract stipulates, page rate and the schedule at which, when he turns in pages, how often he gets paid. It explains the Kickstarter, it explains our roles. So like his role as an artist versus my role as writer, and like who's who's doing the talking, who's doing the promotion, who's doing it. Be honest and put it all on paper and make sure that you guys are both on the same page. That's what we had to do. And Marco and I are on the same page of how this is going to go and what my short-term plans and what our long-term plans are. You know, if we can work together, and there you go.
Yeah. So what, I don't know if you would know, but what is the average page rate? And I guess so do you know what the average page rate is, and how do you know if it's like too high? So like,
it's not that it's too high, it's just level of experience. So it's the same thing for like, let me think of something comparable. I can talk about martial arts. Okay. So I've been in martial arts for 25 years. I've been a teacher since 2001. So like if I were to teach a private lesson with 25 years of experience, I would charge a certain rate. So if I had been a private teacher for 5 years versus 25 years, the rate would be a lot less, right? So it has to do with experience and quality, obviously. A lot of the artists, I mean, I've seen page rates anywhere from $50 to $300. And it just depends, like if they're talking about like, are they just doing pencils? Are they doing pencils and ink? Are they doing pencils, ink, color, and text? Because those are all separate things that an artist can do. I also do flatting, so I flat for other comics. It just depends, you know, what service are they providing, their level of experience, have they been published, have they been to art school? I mean, it's just all of it kind of ties into what their rate is. And then you have to look and see, like, does their style match? Ours is more of a, I don't even know what to call it. Marco's style is more comic. It's not too realistic, but it's not too comic-y. I don't really know what to, you'll have to tell me how to describe it. It's art. It's not anime. It's not, you know, but it's also not like, I don't know how to explain it. It's not like,
I'm looking at some of the pages here now, and it's not too comic-y and it's not realistic. It's kind of sort of right there in the middle in a way, like a healthy middle ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the, like I said, I'm looking at some of the pages here now, and
you still get a really good level of detail.
Yeah.
Because again, we have zombies and undead things. Like, we are quite gory at times. So there's going to be flesh, lots of bones showing. Yeah, I gave him full permission. I was like, be as gory as you want to be. You know, this isn't for kids. It's not a kid's story. It's an adult story. So if you like that, you know, that kind of genre like I do, then this is for you.
Yeah, so. It looks, I guess the word would be Western-y. It kind of looks that way in a way too, almost like not a noir, but like a Western film, but in a in books, almost like a book style, in a comic book style. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Marco does a good job of keeping it real Western, you know. And Jude, I don't know if you've seen like Jude. He's just, I mean, that's just perfect to me. He's kind of like a mishmash of like Clint Eastwood and somebody else. He has the good squint and he's got the scruff and yeah, he's there. But he's wearing a disc. Like we include like technology that's from this world and how it works. And yeah, there's lots of good stuff. So we do a little steampunk, little apocalypse. There's lots in there that we can play with.
All right. Well, my last question for you, Laurie, is one you're familiar with, is what is your idea of success? So I asked that of creators because if we're not getting regular paychecks from a full-time job or making consistent revenue from our art, we're considered failures, or we consider ourselves failures. Many of us will put our dreams and projects on the back burner or give them up altogether because this career can be highly intimidating and competitive. So what is your idea of quote unquote success?
You know, I agree with someone else's statement from one of your previous podcasts that it's fluid. So if you had asked me this question 3 months ago, it would have been success is finding an artist and getting 8 pages done for the Kickstarter preview. And at this point, success to me is having a successful Kickstarter, so that way we can publish and get the story out. So success is I have long-term and short-term goals. So right now it's just getting the story out there and being successful so that we can turn around and start working on episode 2. I also want to build that community. So not only do we have, I forgot to mention, not only do we have the short films, I have Easter eggs built into every comic. So on every
I think
comic,
you mentioned it with Diana Prince, right? With the mark on the horse. So you're going to be like littering them out throughout the But
every single comic is going to have a riddle to solve, usually on the back cover.
Okay.
So it will take you to websites, phone numbers. There's going to be additional content, YouTube videos, stuff like that, where only the people that can solve the riddles will find this in the real world. So you might get a postcard in the mail from Pine Fox. You might have to call a phone number.
That's going to be with each issue?
Every issue will have a riddle that you'll have to find in the real world. So, but there's a whole community that I want to build with that. So that'll be a level of success for me too. If people actually can solve the riddles and like, there's a whole like bragging rights, like I solved the riddle on episode 2, haha, First riddle is actually pretty easy. So if you can figure it out, then you're part of the community. But after that, I have plans. there's ciphers, there's Morse code, there's all sorts of things out there that I have plans for. So it'll be fun. So that's that. But eventually I would love to see this picked up, to be a long-term, either Image Comics, and then eventually way down the road, I'd be so humbled to have this be a live action or an animated series on maybe like Netflix. Because again, I came from production and that's how I see it in my head is a live action. But I love animated stuff too. Like all the Castlevanias that came out, those were awesome.
Oh yeah.
Like, I would be happy. I would be so happy with that. But just to be able to watch it as well as to read it. But I'll be happy with just having the comic book. I'm not gonna lie. Like that would be fabulous. So it'll be a fun ride. It'll be fun. I want people to come with me and enjoy the story. I'm gonna twist it. You have lots of oh no moments.
Well, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on about the Path of the Pale Rider as a series as a whole that I may have missed, or more about I guess what was it, rewards for potential backers for the Kickstarter? So the riddles and stuff are going to be with the actual issue itself. So what are the, I guess, rewards for potential backers? Do you know yet?
Oh yeah. So of course we have a PDF level, and then we have several levels with just a single issue. So we'll have Marco's cover, like all the other artists that have been involved have covers. So like David has a cover variant, Jose has a cover variant, and then I have a friend of mine named Everett Watkins, who also is a comic book artist who does Boog. He also has a variant cover. So I have all of those. And then like I have the patches from the riot scene from my video. So you could earn one of those. Like I have an early bird sticker. So there's a $15 level that it's like, there's only 50. We're only doing 50 stickers from the first run of the episode. So you got to get in there and get those or they're gone. So stuff like that. Like I have keychains, I have t-shirts. What else? We have all sorts of art. The best one though is of course the highest one. They always are. So you get a copy of each one of the variants, right? Plus Marco's. They're all, mine and Marco are blah. His one will be signed by both of us. You get the keychain, the patch, the t-shirt, and then also Marco will draw your picture of you into our comic book. So we call that one immortality because you will permanently be in the comic from that moment. But we might kill you. We could kill you. We probably will kill you, but it doesn't mean anything because you're undead at this point. So it's just kind of a running joke. But I think that would be a lot of fun to see. In fact, I was like, Marco, I know exactly where I want you to draw me and then immediately kill me. He's like, why? Because it'll be funny.
I think a cool reward for something like this would be like you can get your own pop figures made, Funko Pop
Yeah.
figures. That would be kind of cool of Jude to
You're
have, or
not the first
maybe
person that has suggested that. Someone else, like one of Marco's, he did a color rendition of Jude, and I have another friend of mine that collects like 7-inch action figures, and he was like, "This would make a great action figure." And I was like, "You're right, but I
yeah.
don't know how to do that yet." So
Yeah, I think there are people, I think on Etsy or Redbubble, I'm not sure. I know I've seen people have their own Funko Pop figures
yeah,
made of fictional characters from TV
that's
shows
an
made.
idea.
I'm not sure how much they are, but yeah, I thought it'd be cool because this is like a Western, and I keep thinking of
Yeah,
like the little figurines that people used to collect of their favorite characters, and I thought that'd be really cool if you had like maybe you get like maybe 50. I'm pretty sure if you get a bunch of them, it'd be cheaper. Of
yeah,
little figurines of the character, and then you would sign them, and then Marco would sign them, and that
that's an
would be like
idea.
that would be the top tier.
Well, we can do that as a stretch goal because
Yeah,
I'm looking
yeah.
for stretch goals right now. I'm like, it's like when you learn about Kickstarter and all these different things, and then I'm like, okay, so I have a reward level, and now I have to do add-ons. So, but I like add-ons because it lets you customize kind of your reward level. So if
Mm-hmm.
you want like Marco's cover, but you also want Jose's cover, but you don't want to pay for all four, the because I think that starts at $75. So then you can just, get the regular one and then add on any variant you want. So there's possibilities for you to get any cover you want or any combination of covers you want. So I did that, and then it's like, okay, stretch goals. I'm like, oh man, I got to think of more things. So we did, like I did a first level that's just more merch, but then I did like a big level, like Marco will color that, like we'll send everybody a color issue if we get another $2,000 on top of our goal. So that would be really cool. Marco's an excellent colorist.
Mm-hmm.
He's way better than I am. So that's why I was like, I could color it. I'm like, or we could do a stretch goal and Marco color it. That would make more sense because he's way better than I am.
Yeah.
So that would be fun too, because then everybody can get a color issue instead of black and white. Black and
Mm-hmm.
white does have its value though, it's like as a Western and as an apocalypse, it's like, I don't know. I'm I'm a big fan of Walking Dead, and all of their stuff was black and white. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So until recently,
Yeah.
and they're going back and they're coloring it, but it's just kind of like a washed out world. So it's fun to kind of see it both ways in my mind. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm like I said, I've been looking at
So
some of these pages here on Facebook, and what I learned in school, because I went to school for graphic design, is that if it doesn't
mhm,
work in black and white, it's not going to work in color. And this
right,
works in black and white.
it does, but it
It's
works in
really
color
beautiful.
too because I've I've been monkeying around with it. So because I'll go into Procreate and I'll flat the pages, and that's part of my process too. Like Marco's great, but again, everybody's human. So if I flat it, then I can be like, oh, we're missing this, or this doesn't, whatever, and then we can fix it. It's like my editing process. So even though if I'm not doing the color, me flatting it helps me kind of edit the picture. Does that make sense?
I don't know how the flattening process works. This is
Oh. You just go in and you put in flat color. I'm not putting in any, like, there's no light source, there's no shade, there's no highlight. It's just flat color. But if I'm
okay.
looking at every single area of the page, I can make sure that everything is visually correct.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, it looks really good in the
Yeah.
black and white. So because I'm looking at one of these pages and I'm thinking, oh, this would be really cool if they put color in the back because it has these panels here in the middle and keep those in black and white and a little bit a splash of color, like muted color in a way.
Yeah.
That would
I
look
thought
really
about
good.
that too. It's like, what if we just added splashes of red? So it'd
Yeah.
be like most everything is in black and white, and then splash some red in there. But you know what that does? to your
Right.
print charges. It
Oh,
doubles
yeah.
your print charge.
Yeah.
Because now you're printing in color and not in black and white, and it's completely different.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's like, I just want one page in color, please. Nope, you got to pay for the whole thing in color.
Yeah.
The joys of printing.
All right. Again, I want to thank the author of the upcoming comic book series, The Path of the Pale Rider, launching on Kickstarter April 15th, Laurie Calcaterra, for joining me today. I highly recommend our listeners to give Laurie's The Path of the Pale Rider Kickstarter a look, share, and buy if they can when it launches. All of Laurie's socials and website will be listed in this episode's details, alongside the Kickstarter pre-launch link for those who are interested. Again, I am KS Garner, and you have been listening to the Solo Nerd Bird Podcast. Thank you.